Welcome to the Cheeseburger Lens. My name is Jorge Arteta, and from hobby to career, how do people get from their hobbies to their career and make money at it is what we're going to be talking about. This is our first episode, and I'm excited to share our guest that we have today and her career changes from her hobbies to her career. I was a golf professional for many years, and then I became a photographer. I own my own photography business, and I still do both. And I've done it twice. I actually went from the real world also to the business of golf. And so I've done this kind of twice right now. And our guest also has a few stories regarding the hobby to the career and how to make that a profession. I'd like to introduce everybody to Amanda Lenhart. Amanda, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much.
Amanda, why don't you tell us a little bit about your background and how you got from what you were doing to photography?
So I have been a nurse for 25 years. I worked in labor and delivery for 10 years and pediatric surgery for the last 15 years. I've always had a passion for medicine and caring for people, and but I've always loved photography. So whether it was nature, whether it was people, it was just a fun hobby. I've always looked through life through a lens. So no matter how I look at whether it's people or nature, I always looked at it from a camera in my mind. How would that look in a picture? So it just came naturally to me. So I've always had a passion for both.
Yeah, so Amanda and I met in a photography class of all places, and so that's how we became friends and stuff. A little interesting note about you, though, is salsa dancing. Why don't you tell us about salsa dancing and how you met your husband and everything?
Yes. So I've always loved to dance. Any kind of dance. I do it all. I love it all. And I was a travel nurse for 5 years. So I love traveling, and it was a great part of being a nurse. You can just take a travel assignment and go anywhere for 3 months, and then you go to another place for another 3 months, and they provide housing. So it was a really easy, it was not easy. It was difficult because you were always a new person. It was very challenging, but I love meeting new people, and it was always in labor and delivery, and that was, to me, I can handle that. I've worked at the busiest hospitals and handled an insane volume of deliveries, so that definitely prepared me to travel, and I could work in any hospital with confidence. When I traveled by myself. So dancing was always an outlet, a social outlet where I could go to a salsa club, and they would have lessons, and I would go to the lessons, and then everyone would free dance. So it was safe for me because I could just show up by myself and do the lesson and dance all night, and no one would know I was by myself. So it was a remotely safe thing for me to do, traveling as a woman by myself. So I every city I went to, I found a local salsa place, and I had met someone when I was in Colorado. She did like a lesson in a club, and I was like, "You're amazing." And so I was like, her name was Yolanda. And I was like, "You're amazing." She's like, "Well, I teach a class." I was like, "Perfect." So I went to her class, and that's where I met my husband.
Okay.
And so he was, he had a ballroom background. And him and his brother were both in the class. And so, and I can do ballroom, I can do country. So my whole family goes country line dancing together. And, so we, bring our kids now.
Okay. So tell us about your kids. You have 2 kids?
Yeah. I have Noah and Annabelle. Noah is 14, even though he looks 30 with a beard. And then my daughter is 12.
Okay, great.
And she's my teeny tiny one. But yeah, so we now go line dancing all together, which is really fun for us to do as a family once a month at the barn in Sanford.
That's awesome. So you mentioned 25 years of being a nurse, thousands, I'm imagining, thousands of deliveries. how did you, and to me in that kind of job, you have to really be present there, right? Like there's no taking a shift off or anything like that. It would seem to me like, how did that really help you for dealing with life and dealing with the businesses that you're in and the different backgrounds that you've done in terms of things that you do outside of work?
Well, being a labor and delivery nurse, you definitely get a backbone really quick. You have to be confident. You have to know what you're doing. You have to be able to handle emergency situations. A lot of the nurses do a lot of the decision making and communicating with the OBGYNs. And so it definitely gave me the confidence and being outspoken and being an advocate for patients, for people, knowing what's right, what's not right, and, what's acceptable and being able to speak out on their behalf. So, it definitely changes who you are. Some people might think of me as a little strong personality, and that's okay because I always do what I think is best for that person. Yeah,
you're delivering a whole new person into this world, a human being into this world. So that's great. The work that you do, I'm sure, like you mentioned, it's been meaningful, it's been rewarding. But what sparked the change to photography?
So it's always been a passion, and I haven't had time for it. So between raising 2 children and being a wife and a mom and working in the hospital, I didn't have any time for it. And things have changed a lot in the hospitals, and we had some change in management, and a lot of people weren't happy, and half the staff left. And so there was just a lot of, I didn't want to be negative. Some people just stick it out and, deal with maybe a work environment they're not happy with, and it makes them kind of miserable. And I didn't want to be that person. So I want to do something that I enjoyed, that I have a passion for, and just, kind of change and do something that I've always wanted to do. So
was there an actual moment that you said, okay, I'm done. I'm going to do this? Do you remember there was a moment, a time, a place, a day like that, or did it just come on over time?
A little bit of both. It did come over time. It was always a desire of mine, especially with all the changes that were happening in my department. And then I had a woman who shut her photography business down, and her husband was not doing well. Her name was Dawn, and my middle name is Dawn. And so that's where Amanda Dawn Portraits comes from. Mm-hmm. And so she decided she needed to take care of her husband, who's not doing well. Mm-hmm. And she gave me all of these props and blankets and baskets and all this stuff, which was a huge blessing and a huge, to me, answer from God saying, this is what you're doing. It's time. Yeah. Just take it, take the risk and, just switch over.
And you mentioned something really good. It's a sign, right? We all have signs from the universe, but we don't realize sometimes that they're signs. One of my signs was when I had my open heart surgery a couple of years ago, and I went to that hospital and did it. And I'm like, I better go do whatever it is I want to do, and because you don't know if you're going to be here tomorrow. And so for everybody that's out there, be aware of the signs that the universe is handing out to you. And, and God's looking out for us all the time, right? And so if there's that moment for you, everybody, check it out, just like it happened to Amanda, just like it happened to me. I'm sure there's a lot of people out there with those kind of stories. Now, you did have an entrepreneurship, though, before all this, so it's not like you just went stone cold. Tell us about your time and career so far with Mary Kay Cosmetics, which is, a whole other story about building a business.
Yes. I kind of had issues with my skin, and I had met this woman, Mary Claire, and she got me started on using the skincare products, and I fell in love with them, and I just, to a point where I'm like, everyone should be using Mary Kay. It's amazing. So I started using the product. I loved it. And then I liked that it also was Made in the USA, Mary Kay Ash. She was an amazing, amazing woman who built the business from nothing when people told her that it's not going to work and told her not to do it. She was older. She was already like retired. And so she was a big inspiration for, taking that chance, not listening to people saying, are you crazy? Because there were definitely a few people who were like, you're quitting your nursing like altogether, really, after 25 years. So that, is an inspiration. And then I love sharing the products. So that's just something that I've always enjoyed and will continue to grow my business along with the photography.
So the journey of building relationships, building rapport, learning about business, learning what your customers are looking for, what they need, that all kind of got instilled with you over the years. It's been 10 years, I think, you went with the Mary Kay's Cosmetics. So that's a lot of time and building that. And so for everyone that's out there, you can start out with part-time stuff, right? And kind of learn your way around. But I think the relationships have been a big deal. When I first started with my golf, it was definitely the relationships of each and every student that I had teaching them. With the golf side, and then the photography is the same thing. I've gone to some workshops, I've gone to some meetings and stuff like that, and shared a lot with other photographers. And every single relationship can be something. You just don't know what that connection could be. So 25 years, it was a lot. I would imagine a lot of stability. You kind of knew what you were doing and getting into. How did your family react when you said, I think I'm going to do something else?
My husband, he's wonderful. He's super supportive of everything that I want to do. There were times where I had to support him and, between changing careers and changing jobs. And so now he's at a point in life where he is stable in his job. So it just kind of worked out where it's my turn. So I get to, take that leap and, it's an adjustment in income. But we know that it'll grow, and him and my family, they've been super supportive, and they love the idea, and they know how I love taking photos. So they love seeing me editing, and I'll show them what I'm working on, and this is what the before, this is after, and this is the editing, and this is how that works. And they're like, oh my gosh, that's so cool, So they're very interested, and then they're learning too about photography, and my son's getting more interested in it too.
Oh, that's great.
So
that is great.
Yeah.
So the big leap, you called it the leap. The big leap, though, for anybody that's out there that does this, what was the first thing you did after you talked to your family, after you resigned from the hospital? What was the first thing you did on that day when you're like, I got to do something now. I've taken the big leap. What is it that you did, and what kind of steps did you do to get into the photography business?
Well, I never had a real camera. I mean, it's like, oh my gosh, I need a real camera. I've taken some fabulous photos with my iPhone, but that's not going to cut it. So, doing the research to figure out which camera, there's like a million options, and it was really hard trying to figure out what was best. And then, of course, signing up for some photography classes at Creality to, try and learn more about photography.
Shout out to the School of Creality Art. That's where we met over in Winter Park, Florida. Very cool. So you went out in your journey of looking for a camera. How did that go?
It went good. I have a few friends that do photography, my niece and another friend who does wedding photography. And so I was asking them, what cameras do you like and what do you recommend? And then the professors, they kind of guided me a little bit and what they recommended. So, bought my first camera, took some classes, and watched some videos, on using things and learning the editing. And it's a ongoing, constantly growing and learning as I go. And then, Instagram, Anna Brandt, she's amazing. She does she does videos all the time about newborns and positioning babies, and even she'll do siblings and families, and she educates, and I would love to get to that level in life where it's like, where people want to watch me and I could show them how to do it. Cause I love teaching. Teaching's always been just a natural part of nursing. I'm always educating my patients, educating the moms, educating new nurses. Cause there's always nurses coming in that are in school. So it's just kind of something I've always done. I've always enjoyed. I love sharing my, whatever I learn with other people. So I love learning and sharing.
So looking for the camera, looking for the equipment, how much did social media, YouTube, and all that stuff play in your research? I know when I was looking for my cameras, I did a whole bunch of research, but how did that help you or not help you or whatever in terms of finding that one camera you wanted to start with?
Honestly, not as much as other people, talking to people and getting their opinion from people who have actually used that camera, and the brand. And so I kind of listen more to people that I knew that have experience using it over like online. I did online just to, kind of see and compare what the top 10s are and, see if those cameras, see if everything aligned and what people shared. So.
Okay. So to your point, I was also interested in photography, but kind of like just something to do maybe. And I still have, this is my very first real camera. You mentioned real camera that I ever bought. I think this is a Sony. I'm a Sony guy, so I love my Sony stuff. So it was just funny that my first camera was a Sony. Like I forgot about this thing. It's been just stored away. And I think I bought this in, I don't know, 2011, 2012, some out there. But it still works.
Yeah,
it still works really good. And one of the interesting things when you're talking about gear and equipment, when it came to golf, and a student of mine was a new one, and they were ready to buy equipment. It makes a difference, right? Those are tools. They're not going to make you a great player or a great photographer, but they're tools to get you there. And with golf, it was interesting. I became a fitter also for TaylorMade, and so I kind of knew what to do with the fitting side of it. And people would ask, hey, what should I buy? And we would go to the store and just try different things out. And it was interesting to me, Amanda, that when I was starting to look for my equipment in the last few months, it came down to how it felt in the hand. Like, isn't it interesting with any kind of gear? I guess it depends how you feel and how you look at it. But the Sonys just seem to fit my grip really well, and I've always liked the Sony brand. And I've tried other brands and stuff. But it was funny that really just whatever the size that fit the best is what I kind of like. And I was looking for certain, technology and stuff like that. So you ended up with, what did you end up with? Yeah, the Canon
R5, yeah.
Which is a fantastic camera.
Yeah.
And so I've seen some of your pictures and what you've done with it, and they're just really good. So it's not all about the brand or the camera. It's what do you like? What do you fit with? And can that help you become a great, whatever it is you're into, right? Whatever your hobby is, and turn that into a profession. So it's been really interesting seeing that, people talk about brands and, the Sony or the Canons or the Nikons. And in my opinion, I once read that, my equipment is my eyes. Somebody said that, and it's like so true. Like your eyes are really what's going to capture that moment in time. So now you took the big leap, and it's like, okay, what do I do now? And you mentioned some of the stuff that you did, but what was something that you're like, oh, man, I have to do this if I'm going to start a business, but it might have been challenging, and how did you overcome it?
Well, starting a Mary Kay business is a lot easier than starting a photography business. I can say that because even though you're your own independent beauty consultant, they make it really easy for you. Your website's like $30 a year, and it's just all the things they kind of like set it up for you, and you just pay the $30 and it's already in place. Like, it's amazing how easy it is. So that was a big challenge. Was, oh my gosh. Okay, so I have to come up, like you said, a name, make sure that no one has the name, and then having to pay for, your LLC, and I'm like, well, this is a whole nother different world. That was challenging. And then, trying to find clients, and that's always that can be challenging because it's just word of mouth. I started off with my friend's neighbor, and she was so gracious to allow me to practice with her, and we had a great photo shoot, and she was super happy with the photos, and it's now like the first picture that you see on my website, her and her daughter, and and then another door that opened again, God intervening. My grandmother passed away, and her caretaker, she had been a newborn photographer, and she does lots of side jobs. So she has lots of things that she's good at. And she was like, I don't really want to do it anymore. And so I was like, great. Can I have your job? So it was like, oh, perfect. So
teach me.
Thank you, Grandma, for, aligning the stars and helping that happen. And so I was able, we went and interviewed and met with the labor and delivery manager, and she was like, oh, you're also a nurse and you have experience with babies. And so it makes me very qualified to be able to go into a room where I understand where the women are coming from. I understand what they've been through. They're exhausted and they're tired and they're stressed, and it's very overwhelming for them. So I can sympathize and understand where they are at. I also was part of being labor and delivery nurse was lactation. So, them breastfeeding, and it's just something that it doesn't, to an outside photographer, that would be a whole different, ball game. But it's like, oh, I could help them breastfeeding, or you need, it doesn't, and I'm patient. So I understand the baby's going to do better in a photo shoot when they're fed. So, allowing them time to breastfeed, and, none of that phases me. So, because that's what I'm comfortable with. So.
That's great for that background.
Yeah.
Now, you had a very unique situation in terms of, from a photographer's point of view. New photographers sometimes are trying to figure out their niche and like, what should I do? And because you're trying to explore different things, but the maternity kind of, like you mentioned, your grandma just had the stars aligned, so to speak, for you, and you were already in that industry and that situation. But did you have any other thoughts of other types of photography at all? Or were you always interested in the newborns, the maternity, the kids, the family type thing? Or were there any other niches that you were looking to explore at all? Because out there, people have tons of choices. Even myself, I'm still exploring some niches in photography, and I've gotten down to a few. But you are very specific, which I think really could help out. So did you have any others that you were exploring?
I had some people make recommendations, like, oh, you should do this, you should do that, and you should do sports, or you should do that, and I'm like, I quit my job to do what I love, and as much as I love playing sports, I don't like watching them. So I was like, no. I don't want to do that. Like, it was very, very clear to me. I love babies. I've always loved babies. Even when I worked pediatric surgery, there'd be a fussy baby and I'd find him. I'm like, oh, there's a baby crying. Let me go take care of that, And so, people call me the baby whisperer, and, I'd swaddle them up and get them to sleep in 5 minutes. And people would look at me like, how'd you do that? So I love babies. I've always loved babies. And so that is just something that has always called to me.
What a great story for finding your passion, first of all, and identifying your passion, and then taking it to where you're taking it now to a career. That passion, some people, it might hit them right in the face and they don't realize it. Like, with photography, you hear, there's a lot of money in wedding photography or this or that and some other stuff. But if you do, yeah, we're probably not going to do weddings. But if you do enjoy a certain specific thing, that's what people are going to be interested in, or that's what will keep you alive and fulfilling your dreams and stuff like that. Which for golf, it was real easy. I mean, I just really enjoyed golf, and teaching golf is teaching golf. There's no real specifics unless you're going to go from amateurs to tour pros or something like that. That might be different. But in general, you're teaching a golf swing. But photography, there's so many different things
So
to
many
choose from,
things.
right?
Yeah.
And so you try to find your own. But I love the fact that you found your passion because you were always around babies, and 25 years plus proves that, right?
Mm-hmm.
And stuff like that. So now you took the big leap. You found out the legalities. By the way, you don't have to start a business to do this. You don't have to be in an LLC. There's other ways to take hobbies into business and not go, full legal, so to speak. But once you do get to that point, you definitely want to get an LLC or some kind of incorporation for a company and start that way. So you took the big leap. You got your website. You got your opportunity for a job. Now what?
So the hospital is pretty slow. So now it's kind of putting myself out there. Showing up and being present, being available, I just got some pamphlets made. I have my cards done and just handing them out and basically advertising myself to where I can, where they want to call me and they want to, make sure that everyone knows about me. So it's a slow process, slower than I expected. But I've also been wanting to spend time with my kids over the summer because I've never had that opportunity ever. So I've been kind of enjoying and taking advantage of the slowness to, enjoy my kiddos. So when school starts back, I'll be a little more present and available to.
Yeah, I love the fact that you get to spend more time with your family, right? Now, another thing we haven't mentioned, and something obviously you have the background for, being a doula. Can you explain what being a doula is, and how does that help with your photography business?
So I love the idea of capturing the raw moments of the initial delivery and, the first time the parents lay eyes on their baby. And it's a beautiful thing. As a labor and delivery nurse, I didn't like having to chart all the time. It was like every 15 minutes and you had to chart every 5 minutes while pushing. And it was just a lot of, I felt like it took away from me helping the mom and caring for the mom, and when I had to worry about charting the whole time, and it added a different level of stress and responsibility, where I love the idea of being a doula. I have the experience that the nurses have, but yet I can just be there as a coach and support.
Can you explain what a doula is for those out there that don't know?
Yes. So a doula is basically just a labor coach. So some of them will help out prior to delivery and like maybe go to an appointment. Most women, when they have their first baby, they are completely clueless and know nothing. So it is not something that's like important in us, that we just know it all. Or maternal instinct, yes, that just tends to be natural for most. But yeah, the idea of going through the process and all the questions, and I love the idea of helping them and educating them and knowing what to expect, and being a support person to help them through that process, and then being there for delivery. Of course, that will be more of an on-call situation, so that'll be different. But my kids are a little older now, and my husband's pretty flexible, so we can kind of, and my mom, she's amazing, so she helps me with everything. So we can figure out if I'm on call or get called in the middle of the night for a delivery, I can still go do that. And I worked night shift for years, so it's not a big deal for me to be up all night. Wow. So it's basically just a support to help the mom get through the labor process, and coach her and guide her, and then also be her advocate.
What a fantastic extra service, so to speak, that you could offer through your photography, and realize you're bringing in a human into this world.
Yes.
So let me help you with that, and then but let's take pictures of it too, right?
Yes.
We had an interesting time one time. I joined you for a shoot you had with a family out in the Springs, and we were pretty like, what do we do? What kind of things do we do? But the interesting thing was we were looking around and scouting the location and scouting for different places for the family and how the light changes. And in photography and a lot of the things in this world, light affects a lot of different things. Talk a little bit about that, because to me it was a funny memory of dealing with the kids and, you know, how old were these kids that you were dealing with and family. Can you explain that situation? And you know, this was our first time basically out there doing something like that. And it's like, how did that make you feel? And how did Mary Kay experience the relationships that you built, all the experience you had as a nurse and those relationships? How did that actually help that day when you did that shoot with the family?
Well, with Mary Kay, you know, like you said, it's a lot of developing relationships. So, you know, getting used to, I'm really bad with names. So, you know, making sure that I knew everyone's names and knew the kids' names and knew the relationships and, kind of being able to feel comfortable with the family. And, I think that helped me a little bit. And then just dealing with children, you know, working in
so
pediatric.
How old were the kids? They were pretty young.
Yeah,
right?
like the youngest
2.
was 2. Then it was like 2, then 4, 6, 8. It was,
And then we had a teenager there too, right?
Yes, and then the 18-year-old for senior, like a separate senior photo kind of situation. So yeah, we had the whole gamut minus a baby. So
which is what you were most comfortable with,
which
right?
I'm most comfortable with, yes, because I can swaddle them and stick them where I want them, and you know, other than being a little fussy, that's, you know, an easy, you know, fairly easy to deal with. But yeah, the toddler was the challenge. He wasn't really interested in being a part of the photos or understood what that even was and why we're doing it. But we managed to, you know, get a few good shots, and you know, I made sure to, you know, bring some toys for him and a little ball that he could bounce and some bubbles and, you know, just things to kind of distract him and, you know, get his attention. The other girls, they were amazing. They were so cute. They just posed and did, you know, they were just themselves. They were precious. They did amazing.
And what kind of feedback did the family give you afterwards, after they saw the pictures?
They were very happy. They loved the photos. I was really happy with how they turned out, better than I expected, because I was super nervous about, you know, the lighting and trying to figure out, you know, getting them all look at the same time. And, you know, that was, it was a challenge, that's for sure. But I think it worked out great, and I think we got some great photos.
Yeah, those pictures came out amazing. So, yeah, congrats on that whole thing. So now you've been at it a few months. You started doing some stuff at the hospital. You're very comfortable with what you're doing. There's no real obstacles, so to speak, except just doing a new business, right? In terms of your situation and your environment, which I think is awesome. I think it's fantastic that the stars aligned for you that way. What next now for Amanda's photography business?
I'll still do, especially since the hospital's not as busy. I will still do families. I did like my nephew's graduation. He's a senior this year, so we did some senior photos while we're on vacation, and so I'll still do kind of whatever people want. You know, if they want family photos, I still really love the outdoor stuff. I'm a nature person, so I love the photography out in nature, and plus I don't really have a studio per se, so I have a lot of props and things like that, but so still doing anywhere from graduation to families, and then the hospital, and then I haven't, a doula certification isn't required in the state of Florida, but I will work on that certification just so I can say that I have it, even though I'm more qualified than a doula, because a doula doesn't really, you don't need to have really much experience. So obviously my bachelor's degree in nursing is, and the, you know, 10 years as a labor and delivery nurse. So, but yeah, so I'll kind of maybe start reaching out to maybe some of the midwives and OBGYN offices, and let them know that my services, you know, that I offer. So I haven't done that yet. So that'll be next, is to kind of pursue more of the doula thing and show up more at the hospital and be present for the moms who are just newly delivered. So
I do want to emphasize something that both of us have touched on, and both of us have gone through it. You mentioned education-wise. Now, in this day and age, you can go on YouTube and you can learn a lot of different things. I'm still a huge advocate. go to school, get your education. We went to classes. That's how we met. You mentioned your bachelor's. I have a bachelor's also and other stuff. I would not underestimate what a formal education can do, and depending whatever hobby it is that you have, and turning that into a profession, what it can do, and not just the learning part of it, but I think the connections part, right? Here, you and I are here because we went to a class for photography. Otherwise, this would never have happened, you know. And so, for everybody out there, don't underestimate the connections part of education and workshops and whatever it is you want to do to get more skilled at your particular hobby if you want to turn it into a profession. So I totally love the fact that we did that.
Yes.
And that we met, because otherwise we still might be on YouTube trying to learn stuff. And yes, YouTube can give you a lot of resources, but there's a difference when it's formal, in my opinion.
Yeah, and it doesn't have to be like I had looked into really expensive photography schools. You know, there's a lot of, you know, just kind of trying to figure out what you need to learn and who can offer that. And, you know, but yeah, definitely taking a few classes I recommend, but don't have to go all out and, you know, go into some really expensive photography school.
So let's get to the holy grail. Let's help everybody out there. What is, after all this stuff that you and I have been through, but what is the one piece of advice that you would give out there for people that, oh, I hear somebody calling me. I hear the universe telling me to go do something. I'm sick of my job. I want to go do something else. What's the one piece of advice, Amanda, that you would give to those people that hear something?
Just do it.
The good old Nike adage, right?
Just do it.
Just do it.
But yeah, I mean, there were definitely people that I worked with that were, wishing that they could do that, you know, wishing they had the courage to do it, and maybe not happy in their position. Even some of the physicians, even some of the anesthesiologists and some of the nurses, they were like, I would really love to do that, but I can't, or I'm afraid, or I don't really have something. So yeah, if there is something that you have a passion for and you really want to do it, you know, take the risk. But
yeah, just do it. I love it. You know, I would agree. Just do it. That's how I did it. Even though you might have some things that are like catalysts to your choice, like I had with my open heart surgery, and that made me do things, and you were just like tired of the management and stuff like that, so you started thinking outside the box. Whatever it is that's calling you out, you know, try to listen to it, and in my opinion, just do it.
Yeah.
Just like you said, just do it.
I mean, I did start taking classes before I quit my job.
Okay, just in case, right? So
just,
you can always
just to
build
start
up
the process and to, you know, see if this is what I want, and, you know, just to make sure and, you know, be prepared. So when I did decide to leave, that I had an idea, I had some education on what I was going to be doing.
Yeah, you had feelers out there, right? A lot of people do the side hustles and part-time stuff before they transfer, which is great experience if you can get that done. So where do you think, Amanda, you could be in 3 to 5 years from now? Like what are some of your goals for photography in your career?
I would love to learn. There's so much to learn in the editing world, AI and all this stuff. I mean, I don't want anything to be completely unnatural, but technology is not my strong point, being a little older. So technology, I would love to learn more technology, and, you know, kind of making, the portraits just come alive, you know, and just making it priceless and perfect and just amazing. Like I want to I feel like I'm good at what I do, but I want to be exceptional.
Yeah.
So, you know, I want to definitely bring it up a notch and, you know, be the person that people want to learn from.
Yeah, and you're on your way. I mean, we've done a lot of different schools and classes together. Well, you're on your way for sure. So I hope nothing but the best for you. So if this resonated with you, what it is to take your hobby and make it into a career, that's what we talk about here at the Cheeseburger Lens. Hobby to career. What does it take? Just do it. Amanda says just do it. And if this resonated with you and this was something that you enjoyed listening to, wait for our next podcast. We are going to get from another hobby to another career and profession will be our next topic. And so we want to help you take that passion. You know, you don't have to be stuck at work. You know, we only live once, everybody. You only have once, and there is no guarantee for the next 5 minutes of our lives at all. And so, man, if you can do it, just take that risk, like Amanda said, and just do it. Everybody, thank you so much to Amanda, our special guest. We really appreciate the time that you spent with us here today.
Thank you.
It was awesome to hear your journey and your story. Hopefully you're inspiring some people out there. My name is Jorge Arteta. This is the Cheeseburger Lens, from hobby to career. And thank you for being with us.
Thank you.